And ladies and gentlemen, we are live on Monday, Memorial Day, May 25th, 2026. And I usually play us in with a little music, but Memorial Day is more of a solemn remembrance day, a day of reflection, my brother would call it. And it's really time to be grateful for everyone that sacrificed anything so we could be here. It kills me that we had to add 13 new names to the memorial dead as a result of the Iran war, uh, but we can only pray and thank them endlessly. And we've got a real treat today. Today we're going to chat with Shannon Wingfield from District 68 here in California, in Southern California, and that would be the Anaheim general area. And Shannon's a really unique person. She's going to tell us a little bit about how she got here. And so, Shannon, let's kind of start with the basic stuff. And I tell you what really impressed me, or intrigued me rather, is your Native American status. And I was wondering if you might be able to talk a little bit about what it would be like to be the first Native American woman in the California State Legislature. I mean, and on a personal basis and for the district.
Yeah, thank you for having me. First off, thank you.
Our pleasure's all mine. Trust me.
I appreciate the platform and being able to have a nice discussion. So Shannon Wingfield, running for State Assembly, District 68, which encompasses Anaheim, Orange, and Santa Ana. And I'm an enrolled member of the Juaneño Band of Mission Indians, a Hachima Nation. And so we are the ancestral people of Orange County, from Long Beach down to Oceanside through Saddleback Mountain and out to Catalina. And so my people have been here since time immemorial. We were the builders of San Juan Capistrano Mission. And so we have a long legacy of leadership in this area. And so what does it mean if I could be the first Native American woman in California State Legislature? Everything. It means everything to me. I know that it means a great deal to my tribe and my people. And we've been told in so many ways that we don't have a voice or we don't have a place at the table. And that's what I am definitely trying to work on. California, I don't know if you know this, but California is the most populous state of Native Americans in the Union. And the fact that we've only had one Native American representative in California State Legislature in all of its history is unfathomable. So, I think about every ancestor, every auntie and uncle, and my grandparents that didn't get to see anything like that. And I hope that I'm setting the space for every young Native person that wants to make a change and have a voice. And and why District 68? Well, that's where I live. So that's part of the option there. But it's also, it's where I work. It's where my husband works. I used to run a Starbucks in Orange, so that side of town. And then my family, my aunts and uncles who are gone now, they grew up in Santa Ana. My mom was born in Santa Ana, went to school in Orange. So this is my home.
And would you help me make sure my pronunciation is correct? You said Juaneño?
Juaneño Band of Mission Indians, a Hachiman Nation.
Okay. It seems grossly unfair to not have a Native American, a woman in the legislature.
It does. Like I said, we have one, and that's Assemblymember Ramos, and he has done a tremendous job for Natives, but he can't be the only one representing all of the people in California. He represents his district, but he represents a great number of Natives and policies and bills that we want to push forward to help protect and strengthen, the identity of people who are underserved, one of them being Natives.
Well, I hope his knocking down the wall makes things easier for you.
I hope so.
And you gave us a little personal background, but you're obviously not a career politician at Starbucks, and you're a tribal secretary, a small business owner, and a graduate of an Indigenous law program. And I'm curious, I've got two questions actually. The first one is how does that background shape the kind of legislator you will be? And would you explain a little bit about the Indigenous Law Program? I find that fascinating.
Yeah, definitely. So I just graduated. I got back last week from Oklahoma, where I received my master's of legal studies in Indigenous Peoples Law. And so what that really does is it sets me up for understanding where we've gotten to in this point um, of how tribes are run and how other governments work with the tribes and the history that has put us where we are right now and the changes that need to be made. On top of that, it always hasn't been a beautiful or respectful relationship, government to government or government to people. So I had started with my Juris Doctorate at Purdue, and I realized that having a bachelor's in journalism does not prepare you for that. And I didn't do as well as I had wanted to. So I put the pause on that, went back to do my master's so that I could understand, more of where I was coming from and why I'm doing Indigenous peoples law. My tribe is going through its federal recognition process, and for years we've been doing this for seems forever. And it's we pay lawyers to help us and to help us understand and move things forward, but we don't have anybody that has a dog in the fight, right? So I wanted to be that person to make sure that I am understanding what our tribe is doing, what we're asking for, and where we're going.
Right.
But yeah, I'm not a career politician. I come from marketing and communications. That's what I have always done. I used to be in the news, Fox News and NBC back in the day. I've been an educator. I did marketing administration for a really long time. I took a break and decided to go work at Starbucks, and I was going to do it for a short time. I ended up being there for 3 years. Met some amazing people, customers, partners. It really helped me figure out how to listen to people and interact with them. So you don't necessarily do that in the corporate world, but when you're right in front of them, daily with their coffee, sometimes that's how it that's how it happens.
I,
But go ahead.
I always think the personal connection counts for a lot in politics.
Yeah, it has to, right? Because those are the people that you're representing, and that's who's representing us. And if we don't know them or what their values are or who they are, how are they supposed to represent us properly? And I think the one thing is that not having that political background is an asset for me because it helps me understand the bigger picture. So, being tribal secretary, I am sitting and helping run a sovereign nation. So, it's not a city, it's not a town, it's a whole nation for a large number of people, and talking about policy and how we're represented. Um, and I think that that's what sets me apart from some of the other candidates. Um, it's a different skill set, but I think it's exactly what this moment needs.
Well, I'm going to tell you, I can't imagine how your perspective after dealing with or from dealing with the nation kind of filters down to the local level. And like I said, I can't imagine how great your perspective or how different your perspective must be from fellow legislators. Which kind of begs the question: what makes this the right moment? Why now?
Well, honestly, I got tired of waiting for somebody else to do it. I've spent years advocating for my tribe outside of our organization, testifying, organizing, writing policy, fighting for recognition. And at some point, it made me realize that the most effective place to be able to make the change is to be your own advocate and to have a place at the table and be in the room where the decisions are being made. There's something particular about this moment right now in California politics. I feel like people and our representatives are disconnected from each other, our daily lives, and what's really going on. So, having been in tribal government, I started doing a little bit of research, and I was like, well, I took that. What is that quote? Be the change that you want to see. And so
Yes.
it's completely out of my comfort zone to be doing any of this. And I'm hoping that there is an opening that people see that there is an opening for someone who isn't a career politician, who hasn't been groomed to shake the hands and kiss the babies, but looking for a person who's ready to serve the community that they live in.
Well, I really want your unique perspective listened to and appreciated. I think what you have to offer is obviously unparalleled. There's nobody else like you running. And I found that when people take care of other people in some capacity, that it really does make them a better representative and a better listener. So, like I said, if I can do anything at all to help you, please let me know.
Thank
Uh,
you.
but what yeah, I know you're running as a Democrat, but I also know you've said that you don't see every issue through a partisan lens, so to speak.
That's
And
correct.
my question would be, how do you bring people together? How do you find common ground in these days and times with people from across the aisle? And if you have any firm lines, where do you draw 'em?
Yeah, so I'm married to a Republican. So that makes for some spicy conversations. But it's helped me see both sides of the path. And recently I was on a trip to DC for the tribe, and we stopped and visited a friend in Virginia. And we were talking about the campaign. And he said, in Virginia, you don't vote Democrat or Republican. You're just a registered voter. And I found that to be fascinating. And I think that's more of how I wish we approached it in other states or federally, or, just in general, or just as a voter. I think that for me, I'm considered a moderate because I am on both sides of the spectrum for voting and politics and policy. But I think that that's what brings people together, is being able to look at an issue for what it is instead of who it's coming from or who we think it's going to serve, and understanding how what we're doing is serving a greater good.
Well, unity is a is getting more rare these days. And my best recollection is that this hostile, take no prisoners political attitude started with Newt Gingrich, I think way back when, maybe in the 80s or so. And it's entrenched, and I it does my heart good to hear a candidate who wants to break that down. And
Yeah,
go ahead.
you asked me about, like, what are some things that are on the line for me, and there were some videos that I put out on my social media about things that were important to me, and hopefully they were important to you. That was kind of the platform. um, like, for one, that it's not hugely popular on the Democrat side, is I believe in the Second Amendment. I believe people should be able to own guns responsibly. I believe in some form of, I don't want to say control because that's not the right word, but policies in place that protect um, people from weapons and people who protect weapons. And we need to be on the same side about that. I'm pro-choice, and that's going to be on the opposite side of generally people who are on the 2A. I believe that a woman's body is her right, and there shouldn't be government in there.
Here,
Um,
here.
we I just recently did one on immigration, and I know that's a really touchy subject, and it's not necessarily a state level. It's more of a bigger picture. But I believe in the law, and I believe that we need to follow the law. But I also believe that um, there need to be some dispensations made for people who are contributing to our society. People have come here and they're building their lives and they're paying taxes and they want better things for their children. And um, I think we need to make it easier for people to become part of the bigger picture if they're doing those things. And I'm not talking about open borders. I'm not talking about criminals, because those are hard stops, right?
Right.
I think that those are some of the bigger issues. Education is one that's hugely important to me, having been an educator and someone who is a lifelong learner. I believe that we are failing in that aspect. Our children are losing ground. We used to be at top of the game, and we are not there anymore. We keep taking money and money and money from education, from teachers, and the programs that support it. Schools are closing because kids aren't going, because either their parents are afraid because they're illegal, or they can't take their kids to school because they have to work 2, 3 jobs to afford our high cost of rent or home ownership. So there are a number of things that I think that we need to look at: education, public safety, economic development, and I feel like and healthcare. Those are the top things that I really want to dive into.
You're running the risk of sounding extremely reasonable.
How dare I?
Oh, and I've got to ask, education is a real sore spot with me in that I think kids deserve everything, if only because they didn't ask to be brought into the world.
Yeah.
I mean, don't we owe them a decent education and a decent foothold?
Yeah, definitely. I don't have kids, so um, I there are some things. I was talking to someone, and they're like, "Don't you just want to? Why are you doing state assembly? Run for school board or run for city council?" And I don't have kids, so I don't want to make decisions for parents for their kids. But I 100% agree with you. I think that we need to do better so that they have a stronger starting place for when they're getting into the real world, and so they can understand how to be successful, and we're not setting that up for them right now. We're making school unattainable, we're making it expensive, and like I said, we're pulling the funds, so they're not getting the basic education that they need to be successful when they're out.
That's just heartbreaking.
Our teachers
Uh,
aren't paid enough. Like, there's so many things.
well, I'm optimistic that after you get in the assembly, that things will start to change.
I hope so.
And as I research your platform a bit, I've noticed you describe yourself as a bridge builder on immigration. And, for the life of me, I don't, America, that's why we're here. We're here to provide a home for immigrants. And the country was originally established for religious freedom, not in the name of any one religion.
Mhm.
But anyway, with that in mind, would you tell me a little bit about your plans to, you know, to deal with the other side on immigration, to build a bridge and connect somehow?
Yeah. So I think when I think about it, it means I refuse to reduce humans to talking points, right? This district is home to many types of immigrants, families who are coming here now, who have been here for a really long time. I guess I see both sides of it. Like, I have my native side, and they've been here forever. But on my father's side, my great grandparents were immigrants, and they came here to build a better life for their families too. And they contributed to the economy, and all of these people have made this area what it is. People flock to our region of the world for a reason. And it's because of all of those different flavors and the beautiful people that are here. Um, but it's also, I mean, there's real concerns about the process, about the resource, and what it looks like to become a citizen. We've set the system up so that it's almost impossible for someone to obtain citizenship. It's expensive, it's hard, it's scary. And as I go through federal recognition process for the tribe, we have to go through our genealogy to make sure that we can connect ourselves to a village site or a progenitor. So when I look through this whole thing, I know that there are systems that we can put in place for people who are here and that are contributing, much like we do with the Native American tribes applying for federal recognition. And I don't think that other people understand what that is because they've not gone through the process.
Oh, I completely agree. Now, let me ask you this. This kind of follows on the immigration question. I can't say most, but I would imagine a substantial number of immigrants come here looking for work. And that leads me into your position relative to small business development in the district.
Yeah, so I'm a small business owner. My husband's a small business owner. We have another one together. Um, and, this area specifically, District 68, is huge, right? As far as when it comes to money, we have Disneyland, we have the Angel Stadium, we have the Ducks, we have OC Vibe coming, and those are not small business organizations, but we have a multitude of small businesses that help support the rest of our community. And I feel like Sacramento or the bigger government picture looks and treats small businesses as an afterthought. They look at it more as a problem to regulate rather than to support. And so I think that looking at compliance and relieving some of the burdens on businesses in California, and the tax structure for small businesses, I think all of that needs to be looked at again. I'm not, I don't have enough knowledge to say, okay, in this year this happened, but I know that it's not working for right now, right? Businesses are closing, brick and mortar are empty, and luckily there is a huge influx of online businesses, and virtual and remote. But we still need to make sure that that businesses are accessible for owners and for consumers. Um, I I think that we need to do a better job of supporting the communities that are being built around and by the people that live there.
It appears to me as so many immigrants that come here, like I said, just want work, and they're hardworking, decent people, and it's just painful to see any human treated like that. Um, but that's just kind of.
I
And
mean,
oh, about that, is there or I'm sure you've considered ways of easing some licenses or requirements for small business owners so they can maybe have a food cart or a something. Just humans always feel better when they're productive.
yeah, I think that there's both sides to that, right? I am not a huge proponent of just handouts. I don't think that that promotes a good work ethic. I think
Right.
that, and also like I don't want anybody starving, right? Everybody deserves to have
Right.
a home, food, be warm. Um, but I don't believe that um, when things are handed to people without any kind of accountability or responsibility or working for it, that it's not appreciated or often used properly. So I'm not sure that just giving people things is the right way to do it, but I think that we maybe need to put in policy and process that help people who want to work for it and who want to contribute.
And this is kind of an off the wall question, but what historically were the I don't know if you'd say the characteristics of the practice of the Juaneños relative to food, clothing, shelter,
Oh,
or did they
historically,
even? Yes,
we just fend for ourselves. So,
really. Okay.
yeah. So, I mean, we're not. So currently, we're not a reservation tribe, right?
Oh,
So we're an urban nation, and
so
we don't.
so it's more of a family thing where everybody just looked out for the other members of the family.
Well, yeah. So we were built on villages. So each village had their person in charge. Later, they were called captains of the village. But everybody had a role, and whether you were gathering food or sowing food or minding your village, that's where it all came into place. But obviously that's a little bit different, and it's more of family clans. Now we still have our clans, and when we meet, we promote knowing who you come from and your village, and so every village is different, right? So there's some that are coastal, there's some that are inland, and clans are different. If you're a bear clan or a deer clan or whatever you are, every one of those has a different purpose.
Wow.
So it's a little bit different than it is now, but every I believe every community wants to look out for themselves, and that's what our nation and our tribal government is doing.
Well, yeah, I just kind of highlighted my own ignorance. I kind of forgot private property is, like a Western concept.
Yeah,
Natives just, it was there. I know the Taoseños consider themselves just risen from the earth itself,
yeah.
and there's no ownership. It's just you're just here.
Yeah.
But anyway, go ahead.
I would say, there's the concept of one, we believe no one is illegal on stolen land, right? And
Right.
and there were not borders before, but there are borders now, and we do need to respect some of that because you have to be cognizant of who is coming into your home, essentially.
Right. And let me ask you this: uh, how long? I guess you've been advocating for the Juaneños for how long now?
Well, I've only been in office. This is my second term. So I've been in office
Okay.
for 6 years, but our federal recognition process has been going on since the 50s.
Wow.
And yeah, so for a really long time. And as far as the current process, this federal recognition process started in 2005. So we're looking at quite a bit of time to still be trying to tell people who we are and prove it.
Well, I hope this recognition comes sooner rather than later. You guys were here first.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's incredible that we are the only people in this nation that still have to prove who we are, and we were here before any of this existed. It's baffling to me.
absolutely astounding to me also. And I don't know how much. I'm sure you've given this tons of thought, but District 68 and Harlem and Orange, that's super diverse, and it's and everybody lives together more or less peacefully, right?
Yeah.
And so how do you what tactic do you use to bring neighborhood people together when they may not agree completely?
It sounds really simple, but I think there's more to it. But it's listening. You start by listening, not listening to respond, but listening to understand. And I have spent my career in spaces where people come from very different backgrounds and very different worldviews, like even in my home. But what I found is that when you listen to people and they feel genuinely heard, they're more willing to find common ground, even if it's on a political platform. Just this past weekend, I was listening to one of my industry leaders, Christian Oriana, and he was speaking about listening, and it was crazy that I was already thinking about this interview and the things that I'm doing and how to make this campaign effective. But he said, become a good listener, and that's how you find out what's important to people and what they really need. And a lot of time, people are not apt to tell you what they want, because we're not generally in a society that likes to tell people. There's very few people will tell you what they want, like up front. People tend to beat around the bush, and that works with politics too. But it's if you're listening, there's a really good chance you're going to hear them and you're going to be able to help them tackle what they're searching. But I also think that representation matters, and it's practical, right? So people want to see somebody who looks like them or who has a shared lived experience, or that they've engaged with them. But people trust differently, right? And so what I want to bring to this is it's okay to not agree, right? And it's okay to bring up things um, that we may not see. And my lived experience is very different from yours. And we may share the same views on stuff, and we very well may not. But the only way to find common ground is to talk it through and listening. And nobody ever won a conversation by arguing and shoving it down your throat.
No, I think my granddad had always taught me to embrace the differences, that it'd be a dull world if we were all alike. So I kind of like that challenge of you trying to bring people together. It sounds like you've just about got it wired. Um, well, Shannon, can I ask if there's anything else you might want to say to the voters out there?
Yeah. So I was talking to a friend of mine about this campaign and how it was all working. And, you come into it with an idea of what you want to do and the money you're going to raise and all the things. And it's exhausting just even thinking about all of it rather than doing it. But something that you may have noticed that's a little different about my campaign, if you're driving around the area, there's no yard signs, there's no mailers, there's no postcards plastered across the district. And that was 100% intentional. As an Ahachiman woman, I have a deep personal connection with this land. It's not just where I live, it's my ancestral land. And so those campaign signs immediately become trash. Mailers go straight in the trash. They go in the recycling bin, hopefully. And I wasn't willing to contribute to that waste just to get my name out there. So I went with digital. And when you're going into this, they always say it's the money that talks. The person who raises the most money is going to do the best. And we talk about fiscal responsibility and what we're going to do when we get in office. And I feel like if you're going into this wasting money on mailers and all the things, your actions are going to be very same once you're in office. So there's a responsibility to our land, and there's a responsibility to be fiscally sound. And so that was one thing that I decided to do differently, and we'll see how it works. I'm not sure. Um, and then, one fun trivia item that people might not know about me is I'm a speed reader. So that will help me when I am reading the bills and the policies that people are putting forward. Every amendment, I don't outsource my understanding to any of my staff. And when I cast a vote, I want to make sure that I'm informed. That's my promise.
Right. Well, I got to tell you, Shannon, you are a woman of integrity, and you're motivated. You're obviously bright and talented. And if, like I said, if there's anything I can do in the future to help with us, to help you, please let me know. Like I said, I'd be happy to do anything I could do.
Thank you.
Well, I said the pleasure's mine, and I really appreciate you taking time to come on Memorial Day. And again, I can't thank you enough, and I wish you a landslide in the primary, and followed up with a landslide in the general.
Fingers crossed. I appreciate the support.
Oh, we'll be there. And like I said, if there's anything we can say or do, please let us know.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. Take care. Bye, Shannon.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay, guys, we are back after our really nice interview with Shannon Wingfield from District 68, Anaheim, and Santa Ana and Orange, and those places. So she was, I'm going to tell you, it's really hard to bet against a dedicated, devoted, motivated person, much less a dedicated, motivated female. So let's give her a shot and vote for her. And I'm going to tell you something. You will not find a person that's more honest or has more integrity. And I'm going to leave it with vote for Shannon Wingfield, Assembly District 68. And now I want to mention a candidate from District 67. And her name is Ada Briseño. And Ada is, I think the world of her. She is a true American success story. Childhood refugee with her parents from Nicaragua, found a job at a hotel, eventually organized the workers into the union, became president of the union, worked her way up to be the chair of the Democratic Party of Orange County. I mean, she's worked hard for what she's got. And when people criticize and cut her down, it's wrong is what it is. And I've got a few words from Ada I want you to hear.
Why are pro-Trump billionaires spending a fortune lying about Ada Briseño? Because they're afraid of her. Bernie Sanders calls Ada a warrior who stood up to corporate interests and delivered real change for working men and women. Planned Parenthood says Ada is a champion for reproductive freedom. Healthcare workers called her fearless. Join Bernie Sanders. Vote Ada Briseño for Assembly, the one candidate who strikes fear into the heart of Trump's allies. Why are pro-Trump...
I really hope that shows you what we're up against. These guys have dedicated millions of dollars to taking down Ada Briseño and District 67. I mean, that just shows how afraid they are. And I'm going to tell you, if Ada were after me, I'd be afraid too, because she's really good at what she does. She's a super advocate. She cares. And that just kind of all you need. A motivated representative who cares. And Ada is that to a T. Now, what I'd like to do is kind of move on to the basics of Memorial Day. And it's clearly, like I said, a day of reflection, a day that has some solemnity to it. And, it's a lot of holidays. It's, you go rock out, this, that, and the other. But Memorial Day was intended to be a kind of reserved thank you to the soldiers that maintain our freedom. I always thought there was something really special about someone who could stand up and was willing to take a bullet for their country. And I mean, bullet, dead, lose limbs. These guys they sign up for it all. And, a lot of us may be more or less pacifist. And I'm not a pacifist. I don't I think there's clearly a time to, you know, to stand up and stand up hard. Um, but these guys are, they're humans just like us, and and disproportionate number of them are probably what 18 to 25 or 28. So they're giving us the best years of their lives, and we really owe them in return. Like I say, I know there are peaceniks that would spit on a soldier, but a lot of them aren't there because it was a dream. A lot of kids use this as an education to find themselves, and as much as I don't want to admit to it, I do believe that under certain circumstances, a military training is appropriate. I don't think it necessarily belongs anywhere but on in the military bases, but that's my thought. And when I was talking to Shannon Wingfield a few minutes ago, and she was talking to me about her band of her family tribe, and she said the Waneno Indians of the nation. I can't quite pronounce, but we ought to remember those guys too. They were here first. They were. You can't deny it, and and they have to fight to be recognized as being here first. It's kind of circular logic. Uh, but there's no doubt in my mind that the settlement of the American West and that whole manifest destiny thing was just garbage. It was just garbage. And it's our manifest destiny to go settle. Well, maybe yeah, maybe no. It depends where'd you get that old manifest destiny. I don't, yeah, it sounds to me kind of like you made it up to justify killing the natives almost to the point of extinction, which is genocide. I mean, every time I read an account about the West, there's somebody comparing a Native American to a dog, and they ought to be shot accordingly. And that was a really dark chapter in American history. We may think it was glorious and that we conquered and settled the West, but the truth of the matter is we killed a lot of innocent people who just, it's their land. They were here. But it's not like Native Americans have the concept of private property. Everything was communal. And if everything's communal, hang on. But if everything is communal, that means there's no private property, right? And that means there's no deed. So when Native Americans live in villages, it's where they are. The notion of private property was just alien. They had no concept. And to a settler, if you don't have a deed or title, then you don't own the property. So if you were to ask a Native American tribe for their deed to the to the property, I think they just stare at you in disbelief. And I used to go to Taos, New Mexico, a good bit, and the Taoseños believe that they've always been there. They just came from the earth. The earth just opens it up. That's where they come from. And why? Because they've always been there. So the truth of the matter is, until we got here, the Native Americans were, pretty isolated, and they didn't. Their only predators were, hostile Native Americans, and I don't think the Native Americans are nearly as hostile as the Americans want to believe. I think it was probably a kind of a reaction to people, just invading your space with things that make loud noises and put holes in people that are called guns. So yeah, you can't. I mean, these guys must have felt like they were just being overrun by Martians, and that's exactly what we did. So I always have a desire of some sort to contribute to righting that wrong, and I hope as I grow older, I'll get an even better opportunity. But that was just one reason it was super to talk to Shannon Wingfield. Um, she's like District 68 right next door. And in Anaheim, I say, she said, there's the Ducks, the Angels, the Ducks, the Angels. It seems like that would be somebody else. But anyway, um, there's in Anaheim, they have little sections, like there's this little Arabia section. And it's just some of the best Middle Eastern food you'll ever get. They might have like a, not Somali, but maybe a Northern Moroccan restaurant that are run by Moroccan, immigrants from Morocco. She's in a really cool district, and if Shannon Wingfield can bring her district together, then there's no stopping her. And yes, I hope everyone gives her absolutely serious consideration in District 68. I only hope we get a chance to chat once again. But meanwhile, back to the Memorial Day thing. And I'm sure everybody watched or tried to watch the Indy 500 and the Coca-Cola 600 yesterday. And, with Kyle Busch dying a few days ago, everything took on a little different flavor. Excuse me. And, Kyle Busch was actually my driver. I had I just couldn't imagine what happened at age 41. My first thought was, like a Dale Earnhardt accident, but that wouldn't be true but the Bush is smart enough to use the safety equipment. Earnhardt was a little iffy on those full face things and all that, but now we have the head and neck restraint system and just a few things that make drivers less likely to die or be crippled. And just so everybody's kind of clear about this, and I had to tell my granddad about this. I said, car racing is actually the safest place you could ever be. He goes, how can that be? They're doing 180 miles an hour. And I said, yeah, but they're all doing almost 180 miles an hour, and they're all going in the same direction. See, when you mix different cars and different speeds, different directions, then it's kind of accidents a little more likely. But if you get everybody going in one direction about the same speed, you're generally going to be okay. And once I realized that was, kind of like stock car racing, I'm like, oh, I get it now. But anyway, Catherine Legg from England tried to do the double, tried to do the Indy 500 and then the Coca-Cola 600. And I think she started like 37th in the Indy 500, so she got caught up in somebody else's mess fairly quickly. Of course, flies to Charlotte, North Kakalaki for that old Coca-Cola World 600. And she gets kind of tagged out early. So, Catherine, great try. It was good seeing you do this. I would always bet on you. I don't know if I bet on people around you, but I would always bet on you. And that's, and I want to tell you exactly why. I believe that women are, excuse me, largely superior to men, particularly in getting things done. And I have the story I tell about why I never, ever bet against a woman. And the reason I never, ever bet against a woman is a woman is expected to pass a human being through an opening roughly the size of a pea or a straw, right? But if a guy gets a hangnail, and I don't mean a terminal hangnail, I don't mean a stage 4 hangnail, I don't mean like, emergency surgery hangnail. I mean a regular old run-the-mill, clip it off hangnail. But see, when a guy gets a hangnail, it's like 3 specialists and a rod in the ambulance, as opposed to the woman who goes this excruciating childbirth process and then is, back at it in a couple of days. So, it's a little personal observation I thought I'd share with you as to why I never, ever bet against a woman. And to that end, as I look at the presidential field starting to shape up, and of course, we're not really sure how things are going to wind up on the Democrats' end. On the Republican side, you would have to assume it's going to be whoever it is, Rubio or Vance, it's going to be a Donald Trump Jr. as vice president, and and Trump will just exercise his will that way. The truth of the matter is, I'd kind of be surprised if he was around a whole lot longer. I mean, this whole life of cheeseburgers and golf and Diet Coke has got to catch up with you eventually. I know some. I was Kennedy said something about he has the constitution of a rock or something. Well, his head might have the constitution of a rock, but he's just cruising for trouble. And I do like point. Oh, and another thing, how many of you actually think that there's any kind of a deal really on the table between Iran and the U.S.? And you see, whenever Trump says the deal's almost done, then you go, well, what do you mean it's almost done? And he'll go, and he'll just give some BS argument, or that's nothing more than a lie. And that's, we really need someone with a little integrity in there. These guys are just scammers, and we see it every day. You and I have a difficult time putting, gas in the car. I had the privilege of paying $75 for 2/3 of a tank of gasoline, which means the tank was like $120, $130 from the old $100 a week. But don't worry, they're going to drop. Prices are going to drop like a rock. The truth of the matter is, Trump has unleashed forces beyond his control. And not only beyond his control, he certainly doesn't have the intellectual capability to understand what's going on. That's why his staff talks so briefly to him in the simplest terms possible. And sometimes I'm sure they draw pictures. And guys, America deserves better than that. America deserves someone who doesn't loot the treasury, who doesn't sue his own government for $10 billion and say, oh, by the way, I'll take 1.8 and don't ever audit me and my family again for eternity. I mean, what is that? At that point, you have a law that says something like thou shalt file your income taxes. And if you do file them falsely, you can be prosecuted. And that just stands out on its head. That's like turn in whatever you want, pal. We'll accept it. We can't audit you. And Americans have always taken comfort in traditional notions of fair play and justice. And whatever you can say about Trump, he does not play fair. He never has played fair, and he never will play fair. The greed and the stench from D.C. are just about intolerable. And I got to tell you, if I had an extra $1.8 billion lying around, wouldn't it be better to try and do something decent with it instead of rewarding the people that broke into the Capitol? And while we're on the subject of all this, I talked to someone who actually believed that January 6th was a staged event. Oh, so okay. Now, of course, I was like, well, how do you prove that? Well, everybody knows it. Well, no, I don't know it. Well, then you're whatever it is. Then they attacked me instead of the physician. And like I said, the truth of the matter is, if people have shown a huge tendency to lie in their earlier lives, there's a substantial likelihood that they will be an even bigger liar later in life. And, I'm really tired of the news organizations calling Trump's statements, calling his lies false claims or misstatements, or, it's just lying. It's like embezzlement. After a while, when you steal enough money, it's not even, they don't even call it stealing anymore. They call it embezzlement. And I would venture to say that there's probably a little bit of that, going around in Trump's orbit. See, the guy doesn't really care about the source of the dollar. He just wants the dollar or the dollars. He'll take dirty money. He just, it goes into the asset column, and that's all he is. So anyway, guys, on Memorial Day, I'm sorry to kind of go into that kind of stuff, but the good news is that because it is Memorial Day, I'm gonna have an abbreviated show today. We're gonna wrap it up around 1ish, just so we can spend a little time looking at the blue sky and I don't know, maybe being a patriot and going to have a beer on Memorial Day at the American Legion. Uh, the American Legion in Newport's really nice, and they have free shuttles, so you can go like to and from without a policeman seeing you get in your car. Just thought I'd point that out. So guys, let's get this 80% thing in one more time.
Why are pro-Trump billionaires spending a fortune lying about Ada Briseño? Because they're afraid of her. Bernie Sanders calls Ada a warrior who stood up to corporate interests and delivered real change for working men and women. Planned Parenthood says Ada is a champion for reproductive freedom. Healthcare workers called her fearless. Join Bernie Sanders. Vote Ada Briseño for Assembly, the one candidate who strikes fear into the heart of Trump's allies.
Well, guys, I'm going to leave on that note from Ada as a reminder to everyone what we're up against. I'm not here to dwell on it. It's a nice day. It's a holiday. Everybody ought to, unwind in some way. And I said, don't forget to say thank you to, even if it's just a silent prayer for all the people that had to die so we could be here. So with that cheerful thought in mind, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up on this Monday, May 25th, Memorial Day, 2026. And I want to remind everybody our number is 949-629-3820. If you want to chat, give us a call. Let us know what you're thinking, for better or worse. We'll have a lively discussion one way or the other. So, guys, I keep forgetting what it is they say. I think it might be something like Roger Wilco over